Welcome to NeuroMovement Revolution with Anat, Baniel, where you will discover breakthrough possibilities for your life through the brain's power to change. We're so happy that you can join us in making the impossible possible.
And now we're going to move on to episode 10. And this is a big surprise for me because I don't know what the topic is yet, Anat.
I have it. Should I tell everybody?
Yes, please.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm just curious, before we move to the next episode, are there more questions about the thing?
Yes. I mean, there's actually one that just came in just before that.
Yeah, we can't do it right now, but we'll try to loop it back in.
Absolutely.
And it might connect to the topic.
Exactly.
Okay. So the next topic is, are you helping your child too much or too often? And how to recognize when you're doing that. So I'll give a little bit of a background for why I chose this topic. One of the things that I observe very often when I work with the children, when we work, because we work as a team with the children, but when I'm with them in the room, that when either I start directing the child to do something or the child indicates an intention or a desire, like to reach a toy or something like that, very often the parent simply, kind of like it's automatic, jumps in, gets the toys and gives it to the child. And when a child has special needs and when they're little, well, let me start somewhere else. All babies, when they're born, are 100% helpless, 100% dependent on the person that takes care of them. That usually is the mother and father. So if a 1-week-old or a 6-week-old or a 2-month-old baby or infant is crying, you know, the adults around them go like, do they need a diaper change? Are they hungry? Are they tired? Are they lonely? You know, and you try to see what they need to meet their needs so that they can be well again. And that is 100% what we need to do, and to some extent continue doing for quite a few years. However, when the child does not have extraordinary or, you know, exceptional need, you know, challenges, because all children have to figure things out. You know, first they don't know and then they do know. But when there's an interruption in that process, when there is not an interruption in this process, very quickly there are things that the child sort of takes over and sort of owns, or at least partially owns. So the child starts holding their head up. And so up until a certain point, the parent will cradle the head and be very careful and support the back and make sure that the child is safe. And at a certain point, you pick up the child, they hold their own head, and unless they're falling asleep, you know, you don't hold their head anymore. And you don't even think about it. It's kind of like, it's sort of seamlessly. Certain things transition when the child start walking. You know, in the house, they go from one room to the other. They come to the table to eat. There is more and more that they take over. But if you go out to the street, you are either going to hold their hand or you're going to pick them up, sometimes carry them or put them in a stroller. So that process of the child owning more of themselves, and that also happens emotionally and cognitively, it sort of progresses seamlessly. When a child has special needs, that process gets interrupted. The child can't carry their head. they're not able, they have spasticity. The child, if it's on the spectrum, is not looking at the eyes. They don't get the social cues that babies quickly pick up on. Any one of those things, you then step in to fill in. And that's what you should do. Otherwise, you've been either neglecting or be cruel to your child. So that's needed. However, especially I talk about it when there is a process, when we start working with the children, they start having more agency. There's more that they can do for themselves. And sometimes it's subtle. It's not like, oh, they couldn't stand up, now they're standing up. But sometimes they are able now to turn their head and focus their eyes and see what's going on. So, for example, I give an example, which sometimes when that occurs, I show it to the parents. So let's say the child now can track better, see better, and you feed them. And you have gotten trained to follow with a spoon wherever they turn their head because they were not doing it. Now, and let's say they want to eat, right? So the child, it happens with children that initially couldn't do it. You start bringing the spoon. Perhaps they're even moving forward, or they're just waiting for you to get it all the way to their mouth, and then they turn their head. What I show parents to do is to just keep the spoon where it is and let the child discover that the food is not coming to their mouth. So that now, if the child can't control the head, absolutely don't do that. But if the child has some control over the head, and then I perhaps wouldn't bring the food all the way to their mouth. I might bring it a little and wait for them to even do a tiny movement. So you know that they are participating. There is a intention. There is what I call some agency. So, and very often it is the idea of giving the child space, enough space. Sometimes it's physical space that you don't just jump in right away. It could be a time space that you allow the child to, fumble a bit, attempt a bit, and not do it for the child. I mean, in my world, unless I give up on the child learning, I will not make the child, do the toys. I will look for other ways, but that's another story. So are there any questions about that?
Not
comments
specifically. We actually have a message from Elena, who was at the 4-day training with her son Isaac.
Oh.
And she says, hello, Anat and Neil. Thank you for the amazing experience in Vancouver. Isaac was so calm for 2 days after we left. There was definitely a shift in his brain. It was an amazing learning experience for us parents too.
Yeah, and Isaac has his big challenges, and Isaac basically learned to get his needs met by crying, which was an intelligent thing on his part to do, except now it stops him from growing. So we went through a process where a space was made, so he had the opportunity to notice that crying was not giving him immediately what he wanted. And after the first time we did that, the mother was drinking some water, and she noticed that he was looking at her. So she asked him if he wants water. You see, that's giving him space, not immediately giving him the water. And he indicated yes. So she took the bottle, with the water, and for the first time in his life, he reached out to hold it. She supported, so the bottle was heavy, so she helped him that way. But he took care of his water.
He did what he could do, and I mean that's so important, that you have to make it easy enough that it's within their capability to do. but give them the space to do what they can in order to
yeah. But it's not so simple, because there are things the child simply can't do.
Exactly.
And the sometimes the parents try to make them do. They take the hand and they put it here and you do that. I would look for, even if it's a little bit here, a little bit there, make space for the child to do what they can. And then when they really can't do it, don't try to make them do it. Say to them, I'm going to take your hand and I'm going to help you push the button. So you create a distinction. And by the child knowing that, you can even ask them. You can say, do you want me to take your hand and push the button for the music? Let's say it's a musical toy. And wait for some indication. It can be blinking if the child has, ability to say or yes or something. And if the child doesn't show any indication or any interest, don't do it. That's another way of giving them space. It's like if you have a guest and the guest comes in and you say, do you want water? And they say no. And you go run and give them water. That'll be weird, right? So anyway, I'm hoping there are questions, because I'd like
so Kavita, who we spoke to a little bit earlier, she says she totally agrees. I am guilty of doing too much for my little one. However, today I bravely let go of his head just to see what he would do, and he seemed to enjoy the challenge of moving his head side to side, despite it being flopped forward, and she put a little smiley face. I also realized he has a little more trunk control than perhaps I had initially thought.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's so, it's such a big topic that, just to allow your child the space where you're not doing for them allows you to see what they can do that may then allow you to let them do something else.
Also, it allows them to know they can do it. I mean, the big deal is that they might not say, I can promise you your child is not saying I have more trunk control. It's not anyway, but they feel it. And when they feel they can do more, it opens the opportunity for that to evolve even more. However, if the head is floppy, I would either support the chest to make sure it's not too hard, doesn't pull too hard on the neck, or even support a little bit, just a touch, the forehead, for example. And I'd say, you moved your head. Now let's see if this makes it easier for you, and you just, support a little bit and see if it continues moving the head. And then you can gently let it go and see what it does. That's learning. That's the variability. That's the child is generating an experience. Yeah.
So we have Sasha, who says that her child demands to be lifted where she wants to go, and then she followed up after the comments that you made. We started working on her demands to try and encourage her to do things herself, and she's more fussy, but she has started doing things independently. She now needs to crawl what she wants, and she needs to come to me if she wants me. It's been difficult, but it's working.
Well, first of all, Sasha, that's the name of my daughter, or my daughter's name. Thank you for sharing. And one of the things that's important and you might already be doing it, first of all, don't do it like always. You can sometimes, and better if you initiate it rather than her. So there are moments where you want to pick her up and get her somewhere, and you don't want to wait for her to crawl, and you don't want a big fuss. You can walk over to her and you say, I'm going to pick you up and take you to the bathroom to wash your face. You tell her what you're going to do, so there is a distinction. There are times you pick her up. So again, you're not trying to make her crawl. It's not that thing where we're trying to the child to do something or be a certain way, but it's more of a dance and an organic dance. So you can do that. And then another time she wants something, and you say to her, sweetie, if you want the toy, you go there. And you use a very friendly tone of voice. Everything is okay. That's one of the things we did with Isaac's mom. And I assume you're on this podcast right now. And I stood by her and her husband, and this little being is just like, everybody is so worried and so anxious and I said to her, he's doing fine. He's crying and doing fine. He was doing fine. He was doing what he knew to do to try to get what he was trying to get. So and you try to not make it difficult. So let's say if the toy is 2 feet away, don't take it and make it be 10 feet away. Because very often parents move things to make the child follow it.
Yeah.
Make it organic. If it's close, she won't crawl. If it's further, she will crawl. And she will start. So it's not like when a child cries and gets what they want, or every time they want to move from point A to point B, they expect to be picked up. For them, unbeknownst to them and unintentionally, this is their safety. This is their power in the world. This is how they make things happen. The brain looks to get outcome, get food, get toy, get mommy to hold me, and the feeling of safety and love. So when we start shifting it, we need to really know that we're not taking away the love and we're not challenging the child. We're just creating a situation that creates space for them to notice. And your child sounds like she has a lot of vitality. She keeps insisting. That's a good thing. It's just when she, what you call fusses, when she complains, you can just say to her, oh my goodness, you're complaining a little bit. Mommy is now going to wash the dishes. Just like that. You name it. So she has a distinction. Or you can even go give her a little kiss on her head and say, oh my goodness, you're fussing. And I am going to wash the dishes, honey. And let her be. She will go to the toy. She will go to you. She won't go to you. The only thing you do is you make sure she's safe. But it's not done as a punishment. It's not done as a forcing her to crawl. It's up to her. She wants the toy, she'll crawl. She doesn't want to crawl, or she doesn't want the toy, she won't crawl. It's a very organic, connected way of making space for the child to discover their own power, their own potency, their own agency. Yeah.
So we have a question from Erica. She says, my son also cries for most of his communication at 18 months. How can I give him space without letting him go on to full meltdown mode? Should I let him get upset at the beginning?
Should I let him get upset at the beginning?
In terms of at the beginning of the process.
Well, again, it depends. In this case, I sort of would recommend, if you have a practitioner in the area, to maybe get a few lessons, because we differentiate when we work with a child between discomfort that they have and between what they can do now and what they can't do now. So if I took Isaac as an example, very, very quickly, I gave each of the 6 children, I gave a session, a consult. I saw that he's very, very bright. And I saw that he sees what's going on, and then he chooses, unbeknownst to him, to respond by crying. That means it's his only response at the time. And he used this crying in a very intelligent way. It was the dance between him and the parents and how the whole thing went. He was very good at it, and he knew what to do when. Now, when I see that intelligence, I go I want to utilize this intelligence and move it somewhere else, do with it something a little more productive than just crying. But we were there working with the child and supporting the child and the parents. And one of the ways that the children get the parents to surrender over and over again is the parents don't want the child to go into full meltdown. Now, I don't know what happens to your child. Some children shouldn't go to full meltdown because of their medical conditions, So it needs to be more refined. But if, one of the things you can do, I don't know the specific situations that I can't give you specific examples with your child, but in general, you can say to your child, mommy is going to do blah, blah, and you're going to watch. You tell him how it's going to go, and then if he starts crying, you say, "Oh, you're crying. Mommy, so do the dishes. Mommy is going to continue washing dishes." And I'm a little afraid to let you do it all by yourself. That's the problem. I mean, we're very, very skillful at working with it, so the child, that it doesn't get out of control. One of the things that I'm intending to do is in the not too far future is to bring a woman, Randy Roberts, who is a coach, and she really helps parents know how to do that. And part of knowing how to do it on your own is she coaches you about you, where you come from when you do it, and then it works with a child. And I would leave it up to her to do, because she's really good at that. She coaches parents. But if you can play with it and be safe, and the child is fine, and you really stay fine, then I don't know, you can maybe want to play with it. As you can see, I'm a little lost here, because I have done that around the crying when I was there, or one of the practitioners is there to help it. I wish I could say more to that, but we have the 5-day parent-child workshop, and in that workshop, Randy is doing each day an hour coaching of the parents, and gives you, so she already starts training you towards doing that. So if you have that, or you are interested in getting that, you can start getting information that way.
And she also says that when she does coach our parents, it's so much easier for her and for the parent if they've already seen those lectures or those sessions in the 5-day parent-child. Wendy says, how do we test their abilities without setting up the failure if they can't do it yet?
Read that again.
How do we test their abilities? I think this is, how much space, but it's like, how much space do you give the child? Yes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, if your child can only lie down, you don't test their abilities, in the sense that the child that has not set himself up cannot sit up. If they could sit themselves up, they'd be sitting up. Now, that's again inclusive intervention. So in my world, I take the child through a process that gives them the more and more elements until they can sit themselves up. If there is a reason that I think that can never happen, then we look for when to sit them up and how to. So there can be paralysis. There can be others, like real paralysis, where certain movements are not available because the muscles are not connected to the brain or something. But in many cases, it's the brain not figuring out how to use the muscles to get there, rather than no connection at all between the parts. So within what they can do, so let's say a child can not even sit up yet, but they lie down, and that reminds me that we're going to do a podcast about tummy time, but let's say they're comfortable lying on their back, and you can hang out next to them. You can read a book. You can see if they can start moving their arm forward to move a page. And like Neil said a little earlier, they start doing, you can free the page up, but let them participate. You like the food with a spoon, like when you put the clothing on, if one of their arms, they have control, you can just play with it. So where's your hand? Where's the sleeve? Do this, and then have them feel until their brain goes like, okay, I do this, and my arm is in the sleeve. You just observe what the child is already doing, and you let that happen, and you can add to it some stuff where the child does part, you do part. And that's very different, because from your question, what I hear is you have to test the skill to see if they can do it. Let me promise you, when a child can sit up, they sit up. When a child can bring themselves up to standing, they do. Billions of children over the last at least 100,000 years brought themselves up to standing without parents, testing them. And so it's important. It's really, really important to understand that. And then, of course, you're not a professional. Then you take your child to a professional that uses those principles, that has an approach that speaks to you and helps provide more input to the system that allows greater, more rapid growth for your child. But at home, it's really important.
And following on from that, there's a couple of comments and a question from Marianne Ball, who was in our workshop in Frankfurt a month ago. She lives in Vienna. And she says, I always try to let my child do as much as he can, e.g. while trying to sit up. But as this takes a lot of time, it sometimes takes too long for letting him do the whole thing himself. And he's smart enough to tell me excuses like, I'm too tired, you have to do it. She says, I don't know what to do with that.
Okay, first of all, you say to him, you are such a smart boy. You want mommy to do it for you. You just name it. You create distinctions. It's always distinctions, perception of differences, distinctions. Anyway, so, and you can be, and you say to, look, he might be too tired, and it's amazing he can tell you. And you can judge whether he's too tired or not. You can decide to, or you say, you're not sure. You say, no, I would like you to do it even though you're tired. You're honest, you're authentic, you're not manipulating your child. And when you don't have the time, by the way, anything that's too hard for us to do, we stop doing. How many of you have signed up for the gym? I'm the first one to raise my hand. I went to the best gym in the area, so it was expensive. And I think I was there 5 times in a year. And I had to admit to myself that I have to cancel my membership because I wasn't doing it for different reasons. But my reasons wasn't that it was hard for me to lift weights, but it was actually too hard for me to find time to go there. And it was not interesting enough for me, so I didn't do it. But if it's too hard for the child to sit up, they will be in the inclination to do it less and less. So if he says, I'm tired, you can say, okay, let me help you. And you do some and I do some. Create a partnership with your child. And then when you simply don't have time, because you're not making him do it over and over again, you say, I'm going to pick you up because we have to go to the doctor. So, and then hold him, under the shoulders or wherever, and feel whether and if he's just like lying like a lump, she said, don't be a lump, sweetheart, help mommy a little bit. So he at least moves the head a little forward. He moves the shoulder a little forward. And then you just pick him up because you told him you don't have time. You scoop him up and you go. So it's not easy because you are the boss of the child. You are the caretaker of the child. You are the custodian of the child, and you are the life of the child. They need you. So you have to provide for the child. You're also responsible to give them an opportunity to learn, which is what this podcast is about, And at the same time, you don't test, you observe them. You shift from testing to observation, and you don't know. When I work, I don't know whether what I'm going to do, what I am about to do with a child will make a difference or a big difference or no difference. I aim to not harm, and then provide, variations and this and that and all that stuff. And then I wait and see what happens. So I hope it's helpful, and I hope that answering this question is also helpful to other people. I think we can take one more minute.
Well, I was just going to say we have a comment from Yellowknife where we had a practitioner and a family in the 4-day mentoring, and Karen, our practitioner from she actually is in near Toronto or Ontario. I don't know.
They don't need to know.
They don't need to know.
Okay.
But she says, Michaela is laughing, listening to your voices.
That's the girl that had the surgery. Oh my God. Oh, thank you for telling us. Hi, Michaela. Oh my God, makes me cry.
And a comment from Marianne Ball, who's the lady's question you just answered. Randy is great. She loved her lessons in the 5-day parent workshop.
Okay, so listen to it again and do the movement lessons yourself. And all of you, if you do that, you will start feeling how your brain gets happy, how your brain, under what conditions your brain gets awakened to learning. And these are the conditions that your child needs, except your child is not going to be learning 24/7. It's in little units of time. If you are intentionally doing something, no more than 15 minutes, but 5 minutes here, 3 minutes there. I'll just ask all of you to think for a moment back on your life where I believe every human being had that happen to them, whether you recall it right now or not, where a teacher or a friend or a parent or something that you saw in a movie, that something you heard, seen, were told, or experienced that changed your life. That one thing gave you, oh my God, and everything rearranged around it. That's like deep insight, transformational moment. That's how learning happens, and we can create, it doesn't have to be all huge drama, but small, that we approach the child and interact with the child in a way that the brain goes like, oh, this, oh, that. And the more the brain becomes a brain that perceives differences and takes interest in the difference, the potency of learning goes up, and of learning of anything. Movement, social stuff, emotional stuff, academic stuff. And if you engage in it yourself, you will also become better at providing it that for your child.
Just briefly, before we bring this to a close, there's a question from Jaime from King City, California. He says, can anyone visit your center? I'm a man of 52 with CP, and I am a special education teacher.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Our center is we work with people. We have a bunch of us work there. We'd love to have you. We have worked with adults with CP, and while it's different in the sense that you take a child, the whole trajectory of but you're a teacher and special education teacher, and your brain will learn and improve and evolve from where you are today. And by the way, as the years progress, make aging a lot less of aging. So yes, you can get on anatbanielmethod.com. That's our website, anatbanielmethod.com, and there's information there, and you can contact us and just schedule. We'd love to meet you and love to have you, and also would love to hear, I guess you like what we're saying, but if you just write one thing, anyway, maybe next time come on the next podcast and tell us a little bit about you and your history and your experience, so parents can hear from a 52-year-old what it was like to receive whatever support and interventions you got as a child. I think that'd be invaluable. So thank you for contacting us, Jaime.
And thank you, everyone, once more for being with us this morning. It's always a pleasure and a joy for us to be here and to hear, wherever we go now, we hear the comments from people of how much they're getting out of this, which is why we're doing it. We really want to help people do better for themselves and with their children. So thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us on NeuroMovement Revolution with Anat Baniel. You will find all of our podcasts and additional resources on our website at www.anatbanielmethod.com. You can also subscribe to this podcast for free on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn. We look forward to seeing you online for our next NeuroMovement Revolution.